Threesome. Foursome. Yes, normal. Fivesome. Yes, of course. John F. Kennedy assassination. Yep, that's yes, my favorite kind of relationship. Yeah, gotcha. This video brought to you by my YouTube members and patrons. Thank you guys. How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another subreddit video. Today we are going to be returning once again to r/me_IRL_LGBT. I love this subreddit, it's really funny, and I think you guys love it too, so we're looking at this again today, because it's always just a good time. It's always a good time. So yeah, very quickly before we begin, I just wanted to mention that YouTube members and patrons, you guys get an extra video every single week for as low as £1 a month. That equates to about 25p per video. So if that is something that interests you, please do consider joining, as it really helps support the channel. Other than that, let's get straight into the subreddit, shall we? Call the Christian god a she/her and watch how fast they care about pronouns. Honestly, one of the weird things to me is believing in gender normative ideologies, right? Believing that gender is a very specific section of men are this and women are this, and then attributing that to a god, right? To someone who is incorporeal, omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, all of the omnis, you know, someone who doesn't have a physical body, is everywhere, is everything, knows everything, is a part of the entire universe, and thinking definitely abides by modern Western gender norms. Yeah, definitely a thing. Like, what? Like, I'm gonna be honest, I think if God is real, God does not abide by gender, because God doesn't have a gender. God doesn't have anything like that, because that's not really what a god is. God, like, the Christian god is more of a concept than of a physical being. Conservatives. Trans women must use the men's bathroom. Trans men. So we have to use the women's bathroom? Conservatives. Who the fuck are you? They do always forget about trans men, don't they? Always. I mean, if it's any reassurance to trans men, it does mean that you're a bit safer out in public, but like, yeah, like they really just forget about trans men. They forget they exist. So yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? They're so focused on trans women. And I think it once again shows how much it's rooted in misogyny, right? Transphobia, rooted in misogyny, because they only focus on the trans women. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Laser Clinic offers discount on Harry Potter tattoo removals in support of trans rights. Harry Potter tattoos have a significantly higher regret rate than any gender-affirming surgeries. Oh, that's good to know, isn't it? That's a really nice thing to know, is that more people regret getting tattoos of Harry Potter than trans people regret getting surgeries. That's a cool one. And you know what? Yeah, I can see that. I can fully see and believe that. Need uterine transplants to come out so I can trade with my trans girlfriend, get her pregnant, then abort it because I hate kids. That's one way to do it, I guess. Also, imagine how absolutely fucking livid conservatives will be, you know? First of all, because their whole entire worldview of what seems to be a woman to them has a uterus, right? Which is stupid. But this would completely change that. They'd have to move their goalposts again. But also, they hate abortions. So this is the ultimate fuck you to conservatives, you know? It's a uterus transplant, it's a queer relationship, and it's an abortion. Oh, that's really funny. Biological really just means state-enforced at this point. What is your state-enforced sex? There are two state-enforced genders. Use state-enforced pronouns to identify students. Transition is against your body's state-enforced purpose. When some TERFs start saying biological name instead of dead name, it really said this out loud. I've not heard someone saying biological name before, but that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because you don't have a biological name. I mean, I guess we do have a biological name. It's Homo sapien, right? That's technically our biological name. But the name that you're given at birth by your parents isn't your biological name. It is your government name until you change your name by government, and it is your assigned name at birth, or it's your dead name, but it's not a biological name. That doesn't make any sense, and anybody saying that is stupid. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Pride discourse is always so funny, because like, what are you even gonna do if you see a bi chick bring her lame cishet boyfriend to Pride, or somebody wearing the ace flag? Like, are you gonna bark like you do on Twitter, or clam up like you do when you have to order Chinese food over the phone? Also, Pride is a place of acceptance and being yourself, right? I firmly believe that all people belong in Pride. Besides, you know, like pedophiles, that's not Pride. That's the one exception I will make is like pedophilia and bestiality, you know, is those things don't belong in Pride. Anyway, the point I'm making is that whether you are cis het or trans or gay or bi or ace or aromantic or agender or non-binary or fucking anything that falls under the LGBTQ plus umbrella, right? Anything like that, you belong in Pride. Whether you are part of LGBT or an ally to LGBT, you belong in Pride, because the second we start gatekeeping people from being in Pride when they are part of that community or allied with that community is the second we start defeating what Pride stands for, right? So if you turn up to Pride with the intention of starting fights or trying to tell people they don't belong there, the only person that doesn't belong there is you, right? A bi person in a heterosexual relationship is still bi. That's still half of what being bi is. And their heterosexual partner is dating a bi person, is therefore an ally, and deserves to be at Pride with them, okay? If you're going to Pride and telling them that they don't deserve to be there, it's you that shouldn't be there. The reality is, they're not going to go to Pride and tell any of these people that they shouldn't be there because they don't have the balls to do that in person. And they know that at a parade like that, where everybody is there to be themselves and to be the most comfortable they can be being themselves, for it to be a safe space for queer people, if they start, you know, starting fights with people and telling them they don't belong in Pride, they're going to be the ones that are going to be arguing with a lot more people, you know? And I think they know that, which is why they don't do this in actual Pride spaces, right? But it frustrates me. As someone who often falls under the categories of like, doesn't belong in Pride, you know? I am pansexual, which means I can be in a variety of relationships, including heterosexual relationships. I'm also non-binary, and you get a lot of people that are like, oh, you're just fake trans. And it's like, no, not at all. Like, I belong at Pride. And even if I wasn't either of the things that I am, I would have been a very strong ally and would still belong at Pride because I'm supporting people. If I wasn't a part of LGBT, I wouldn't take the forefront at Pride, you know, because it's not my time to shine, but I'd still be there to support the people that, you know, do need that support. As it stands, I am one of those people. As someone who is part of the LGBT community, I belong in Pride. I'm in a gay relationship, you know, but like, you know, I think I've talked enough about this. But yeah, these people, they never have the guts to start the fights anyway. They're just screaming about it on the internet and then never doing anything about it because they don't have the balls. Right, this one was actually in a previous video of mine. Was it a sub? I don't think it was a member-only video. I think this was on r/Tumblr, which I wasn't a member-only video, the last one I did. Good. But I thought this one belonged here anyway because it's really funny. A billionaire can never be held accountable. Therefore, a billionaire must never make a management decision. I have a suggestion. Force-femming the billionaires won't help. Sorry, I thought you were someone else. I found this really funny the first time I saw it, which is why it was in r/Tumblr. And I find it really funny now. And also, it was posted to me IRL LGBT. So I think it fits, and I think it's really funny. I just think it's overall a really funny post. That's it. That's all I have to say on it. I just think it's really funny. Maybe it would help though, you know? Maybe it would help. Maybe force-femming Elon Musk would change all of our problems. Maybe we should be force-femming Donald Trump and JD Vance and see what happens. Time for a random break where I show you something I've made, because you guys have seen this 3D printer sat in the background of my videos for a while now, and you never see it active during videos. It's usually because when I print stuff, I print it overnight, but also it's kind of noisy. I don't think my microphone would pick it up. It's not actually that noisy, but yeah. But I do use it, and I still need to do a video on 3D printing. It's still in the works, I just haven't got around to it. But my younger sibling's birthday is coming up. It will have been gone by the time this video's out, so everybody wished my sibling a happy birthday. Anyway, my sibling loves Hollow Knight and Silksong and that kind of thing. And a few years ago, I had a resin printer and I printed them the knight from Hollow Knight. And this year for their birthday, I can show this on camera because their birthday will have been gone by the time the videos come out. A 3D printed Hornet is the camera going to focus on. Oh, the lighting is a bit intense. There we go. Kind of. There we go. A 3D printed Hornet. I used some silver wire to make some thread, painted it all myself. I'm really proud. I think she looks really cool. I'm really happy with that. I just wanted to show that off. It has nothing to do with anything. I just wanted to show off something I made because I'm happy. I think it printed really well, especially for an FDM printer, because I never want to touch resin printing again in my life. I hate it. Yeah, the quality's higher. Cool, man. That doesn't make up for the fact that I'm handling poison and that I could develop a lifelong allergic reaction to said poison, and also that every time a print fails, it just makes a mess and gets fucking poison everywhere. I'm alright not having to handle that. I'll take a very small loss in quality over that, you know? Like, I printed this boy that I haven't painted yet, but I printed this boy on there. I still think that's a really insane print. Like, the quality's still insane that you can get on FDM printers now. It's insane. So, you know, I reckon FDM will eventually maybe not catch up to resin, because resin is always developing and will always be getting more and more insane. But I think FDM will get to a point where, like, while resin is insane, FDM's also quite insane. So I'm happy to be doing FDM, honestly. If it means I'm not having to handle poison, especially when I've got chaotic cats in the house, I'm all right with that. Anyway, off topic, back to IRLGBT. Hello, grandson. I thought you could... That's unacceptable. I will sure we raised you better than this. No granddaughter of mine will be buying clothes from Temu. Here, buy yourself something nicer. Oh, look what a mess I've made. This is gonna be Gen Z grandparents, right? When we're old enough to be grandparents, that's what it's gonna be. Oh, I got really bad hiccups from that. I think from laughing too hard. That's what it's gonna be like when we are grandparents. Like, how dare you buy from Temu, trans? But Temu? You're shopping at Temu? That's unacceptable. Listen, man, I think people outside of the USA should be able to talk about problems with their healthcare systems without US Americans chiming in on it. We have the same problems and we have to pay for them. Bestie, there's a gender clinic in Scotland with a 200-year wait list. This is not a joke, by the way. The Glasgow Gender Clinic's wait list is 224 years. Yeah, that is how it be in the UK at the moment. And it's not improving right now. It's not improving. Now, the problem is, I'm gonna be getting political again. Welcome to Blue the Nerd, where I can't help but get political, I guess. Basically, the problem is that our NHS funding has been basically slashed over and over and over again for the last, like, 15 years. Basically, as long as the Tories were in power, the NHS was getting slashed constantly, right? We also have a massive portion of our NHS work staff, be that nurses or doctors or whatever, were immigrants that came from Europe. We opted for Brexit. Wonderful. Love that. I don't. That's sarcasm, by the way. We opted for Brexit and we lost a significant amount of our workforce. So that's dentists, surgeons, nurses, hell, even like teachers we've got a shortage of. Like, we have a shortage of basically everyone right now. And it's because a significant amount of our workforce was basically told, nah, you can't be here anymore. Goodbye. So that's great. So the NHS has a pretty waiting list anyway, but when you get things like gender clinics, they are already severely overworked. And yeah, when you're in somewhere like Glasgow, where the population is insane, and also it's a very progressive place, Scotland is very progressive, but also they don't have any more gender clinic funding. Yeah, the wait lists are insane. It is quicker if you go private. Obviously, you have to pay. Wait lists are also insane with things like autism diagnoses and ADHD diagnoses, but at least with those you have something called the right to choose, which means you can apply to have a diagnosis, right? You can apply to have an appointment about ADHD or autism on the NHS. You'll be put on the waiting list, at which point you can go, I will use my right to choose, go to a private clinic, and the NHS will pay for you to go to a private clinic. That usually cuts the wait time on something like autism or ADHD down from like 15 years to like 6 to 8 months, right? That's insane. And the NHS pays for that. Unfortunately, don't have the same rights with transgender. You don't have the same rights for gender clinics, which I think is bullshit, but we have a transphobic prime minister and a transphobic Supreme Court, so that's not changing anytime soon. But I still wouldn't get rid of the NHS. I still think the NHS is an amazing gift for everybody. I'm on 3 medications at the moment, and I pay less than £10 a month. I do prepayment, so I pay once a year. I pay, I want to say 80 quid a year. Normally, if you're on like one prescription, you pay like £10 a month-ish for a prescription. Sometimes your doctor might send you like 3 months worth in one go, and you still only have to pay for it once. So it can work out way cheaper. But yeah, I'm on 3 different medications. I prepay, I still pay like £10 a month effectively. If I was in America, I would not be able to afford one of my medications, let alone 3. I'm on ADHD, depression, and stomach problem medications. I wouldn't be able to afford any of that. So thank God for the NHS. Genuinely thank God for the NHS. It is a life-saving service, and it pisses me off that the government has been constantly slashing funding for it, constantly dismantling it, because people like Boris Johnson, who only care about sending money to their mates and not to actual government services, have basically been trying to convince the people that it's better to make the NHS private so he can sell it off to his friends for a lot of money. No, let's not do that. Anyway, I got political again. Let's move on. The bears are taking Ozempic and becoming otters. The otters are having laser and becoming twinks. The twinks are taking estrogen and becoming dolls. The dolls are hitting the gym and becoming butchers. And the butchers, they're taking tea and becoming bears. It's the natural order of things. The circle of life. That is the circle of life, baby. I have started working out a little bit. I bought a weight set. So I'm not very buff, and I'm a bit fat, and I feel like my arms are not very proportional to the size of the rest of me. You know, I'm not super muscly, and I would like to be a little bit more muscly, you know? I still accept I'm basically a bear. I'm a pretty pudgy person. I like my food, but I'd like to have a little bit of muscle definition there, you know? And I like wearing like tank tops and stuff a lot, so it would be nice to actually have something to show off when wearing tank tops that aren't just my tattoos, you know? My end goal is to look just muscular enough that a queer person would feel comfortable being around me in a way that's like someone's not going to pick a fight, you know? That's my end goal. Like, Dad? Yes? Who is this sad girl from Grandma's photo album? Oh, that's me. Huh? Dad, you're trans? Why have you never told me that? You never asked. What a wholesome interaction. And like, yeah, that just is, yeah. I feel like this is one of those comics. I don't have anything to add. I don't really need to add anything. It's just a nice comic. I think every male writer needs a pervert lesbian with a gun overseeing every choice he makes for a female character. And if she doesn't like it, she gets to shoot. This will improve the across-the-board quality of all fiction by an order of magnitude. Specifying pervert lesbian because there are times where something is sexy enough to outweigh being kind of unwoke, and you have to know when to make those tough calls. This following my literally last video, which was men writing women, is quite perfect. So I agree. I think this would improve fiction. I think this is absolutely something that should be the case. I fully agree. Me coming out as a trans man. My ex-boyfriend coming out as gay. Well, you know, if this is one of those, like, the only reason the relationship ended was because your ex-boyfriend was gay and things weren't going to work out, but you are trans, so things can still work out, then this could be the start to another beautiful relationship. But if the relationship ended for other unresolved issues that might never be resolved, maybe don't try that again. Maybe leave that. That one's okay to leave, actually. That one would be okay to leave. You know, it's your call at the end of the day. As a trans man, so many of the things cis men consider to be emasculating are so fucking funny. You are our gender's weakest soldier. You would kill yourself if you were a trans man for a day. How are you going to tell me I'm not a real man and then start cheating on your wife because she makes more money than you and it makes you feel emasculated? Your masculinity is as fragile as a champagne glass and you're throwing stones? LMFAO, God made me trans because he knew you couldn't handle it. It's so true though, right? I will never understand the people that purvey like this gender, like, what's the word for when something has to be a specific way? But basically they'll decide that gender is like a specific thing that they get to decide what it is, you know? Only cis men are men and only cis women are women, right? They'll decide that and they'll purvey these things. But then they have the most fragile views of masculinity or what makes someone a man, you know? They'll talk about soy boys, or they'll make posts about, oh, you're not a real man if you don't do this, and all of these views on what makes masculinity masculinity or femininity femininity, right? But like, how can you believe in those things and then believe that someone who completely denies all of those things still is part of that? Like, they believe in these gender specific outlines, but then don't believe that everybody that falls into that outline is a part of that. Now, I'm not saying I believe that. I'm saying that anybody can be anything, right? But they will outline these very specific gender normative views and then say that someone that falls into those views isn't that gender purely because of the circumstance of their birth. Isn't that a bit fucking weird, right? Like, that doesn't really make sense to me. At the end of the day, my belief is you are what you say you are. If you were born a woman, but you are a man, you're a man. I don't give a shit. If you were the opposite, you were the opposite. I don't give a shit. If your gender identifies with the sex you were given at birth, that's what you are, and that's great, and I'm so happy for you. I don't give a shit. Like, at the end of the day, I could not give a shit what someone was born as. The only thing I give a shit about is what they have told me they are. That's the only thing that matters. And I don't understand why anybody cares about anything else. It doesn't affect your life in any way, you know? That's it. That's all I've got to say. That's where I'm going to wrap up the video, everybody. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. Lots of rambling in today's video, but you know, it's just one of those days. I woke up really late. I'm like recording 4 hours later than I do today. My day is a mess. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed. If you would like to support me in making more content like this, then I have a Patreon in the description down below, or equally, you can click on that join button on the channel to support me. It helps a lot more than you might realize, but by no means should you feel like you have to. I'm going to keep making content regardless. But a huge, massive special thank you to all of the wonderful YouTube members and patrons that do support me. All of your names are up on screen right now. You are all amazing, wonderful people, and it genuinely helps so much. So thank you to everyone that does. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.